You are a temple that God is building, but you are tempted. Not because there's something wrong with you, but because there's something God is going to release through you.
What if a prominent religious leader suddenly faced consequences that seemed irreversible? Many followers are still struggling to process the dramatic news shaking one of the biggest names in modern American ministry. This story isn't just about one man, but about trust, accountability, and the fate of his entire ministry. Could this be the final chapter for Pastor Steven Furtick? The surprising developments surrounding his recent situation raise serious questions about leadership, influence, and whether redemption is even possible. Stay tuned as we break down everything step by step. The controversy emerges. In recent weeks, a wave of alarming news has shaken the religious community surrounding Pastor Steven Furtick, sparking widespread debate and concern. Though details are still unfolding, serious allegations have surfaced that question the very foundation of his leadership and the future of his ministry. This unexpected turn has left many followers and observers grappling with disbelief and uncertainty. The core issue centers on decisions and behaviors that have reportedly crossed ethical boundaries, but the full implications remain unclear. What makes this controversy so compelling is not just the event itself, but the shock it has caused among those who have long admired Furtick's dynamic preaching and rapid rise to influence. Until recently, he was celebrated as a visionary leader behind one of the fastest-growing churches in the United States. The unfolding story now challenges that image, suggesting a potential fracture in the trust that once seemed unbreakable. But the explanations being offered only hint at a deeper, more complex situation lying beneath public statements. As accusations breed doubt, both supporters and critics are trying to make sense of what this means for Furtick personally and for the institution he leads. Has the man who often preached hope and resilience actually breached the convictions he championed? The stakes are high. Because this controversy reaches far beyond an individual, it threatens the reputation of a major movement within evangelical circles. The most significant details that explain exactly what happened remain purposely obscured at this stage. What remains evident is that the controversy has ignited intense scrutiny, putting pressure on all involved to respond with clarity and accountability. Still, many questions remain unanswered. Why did this situation escalate to such a critical point? How have key figures around him reacted behind the scenes? Those unanswered questions may ultimately prove more important than the headlines themselves. As scrutiny intensifies, every statement, decision, and reaction could reshape public perception. For now, the controversy remains surrounded by uncertainty, leaving followers to separate verified facts from speculation while waiting for clearer answers about what comes next. This tension builds a narrative that is as much about hidden dynamics as it is about public fallout. A full understanding will have to wait until all facts emerge clearly. Steven Furtick's journey. Steven Furtick's journey to prominence is a compelling story of ambition, charisma, and rapid growth. Born in 1980, he founded Elevation Church in 2006 in Charlotte, North Carolina, with a vision to reach a broad audience through energetic worship and relatable messages. His approach quickly resonated with young adults and families looking for a fresh and modern style of evangelical faith. Within just a few years, Elevation Church expanded into a multi-site megachurch, attracting tens of thousands of attendees, both in person and online. Furtick's influence went a bit past the pulpit as he built this brand around motivational speech and best-selling books. His sermons were shared a lot, and he had a knack for blending spirituality with everyday hassles, which also pulled in a large following. A bunch of people admired his entrepreneurial drive, kind of viewing him as a leader who could steer through the pressures of ministry in the digital age. Still, that quick rise brought more public attention, and in turn, it made every controversy louder. And it also highlighted certain weaknesses. Even with all that popularity, Furtick has not been totally without critics. Some folks have questioned the way he teaches and the church practices. There are also concerns about Elevation Church's financial transparency or the theological angles he's leaning into. But those complaints never reached the same kind of attention. It seems like the current scrutiny is almost unprecedented in how intense and broad it is. That change feels like a real turning point in how his leadership gets viewed out in the open. If you look at Furtick's background, it starts to make more sense why this present controversy weighs so heavily. His ascent was, in a way, built on a promise of authenticity and this charismatic closeness. So when allegations or shortcomings show up, they land harder. For many followers, this isn't only a story about one pastor, it's kind of a test of faith and a test of trust, too. That history also explains why the current moment carries such significance. The larger the platform became, the greater the expectations surrounding its leader. Now, as questions continue to surface, Furtick's past achievements and previous criticisms are being examined more closely, creating a complicated picture of influence, trust, and accountability. The complexities of his personal history and public image create a rich context for the disturbing news emerging today. The allegations and reactions. The heart of the current crisis lies in a series of allegations that have circulated both within the church community and the wider media. These accusations, while varied in nature, generally point toward questionable decisions and actions attributed to Furtick, raising significant ethical concerns. Some reports suggest misuse of resources, breaches of leadership protocol, or personal conduct that contradicts his public persona. While no criminal charges have been publicly confirmed, the seriousness of these claims has already caused considerable damage to his reputation. Reactions have been swift and polarized. Longtime supporters have expressed shock and sorrow, with many struggling to reconcile the man they admired with the troubling information unveiled. Conversely, critics and independent observers have called for greater transparency and accountability, emphasizing the need for institutional checks in religious leadership. Media coverage has brought heightened awareness, fueling debates about the accountability of prominent faith figures in the modern era. Within Elevation Church, the response has kind of involved attempts to reassure congregants and keep things stable, but at least some people say it hasn't fully landed. Official statements have acknowledged that the situation is serious, though they don't really go into the specifics, and that gap has driven speculation plus frustration inside the church community. Some members have shared disappointment in public, while others keep defending Furtick, so you can see the deep divisions that this whole controversy has stirred up. The sheer intensity of the backlash also shows how accountability and spiritual leadership is being asked for more and more, from both within religious communities and from beyond them. What's unfolding here is starting to represent bigger debates about authority and responsibility in faith institutions. This moment is proving to be pretty much a watershed. It is testing not only Pastor Furtick's standing, but also the resilience of the community around him. How it ends up going from here will likely set a precedent for similar cases in the future. And the ripple effects. These allegations inevitably touch the lives of the people who are closely tied to the church. And their lived experiences will matter a lot in understanding just how deep this crisis is. As more voices continue to surface, the human side becomes harder and harder to ignore. Sometimes, the most profound truths are found not in the headlines, but in the quiet stories of the ones caught in between. With these reactions exposing the emotional and social stakes, the strain on the church's structure and membership becomes unavoidable. Organizational impact. The controversy surrounding Pastor Steven Furtick has sent shockwaves through Elevation Church, stirring unrest among its thousands of members both locally and around the world. Many congregants have expressed confusion and heartbreak, struggling to reconcile the powerful sense of community they once felt with the troubling allegations now in the spotlight. Elevation Church's vibrant worship services and outreach programs suddenly find themselves operating under a cloud of doubt. The once unshakable loyalty of some members is giving way to deep scrutiny and calls for change. Elevation's leadership team has faced immense pressure to respond quickly and decisively, balancing the need for transparency with the desire to maintain unity. Various internal communications have attempted to reassure members that the church remains focused on its mission despite the crisis. However, reports indicate that some staff and volunteers feel disillusioned, questioning their roles in an institution now grappling with serious internal challenges. This kind of organizational strain often reveals long-standing issues that were previously unspoken. Financially, Elevation Church has also felt tremors from this scandal. Donations, which fuel both local ministries and national initiatives, have reportedly slowed in some areas as trust wavers. New pledges and community support have become more cautious, reflecting the uncertainty that comes with a leadership crisis. Such shifts not only impact church operations, but also the broader social programs the church sponsors, affecting lives beyond the congregation itself. On social media and public forums, the debate among followers is intense and often divided. Some defend Furtick passionately, citing his past contributions and their personal spiritual experiences. Others advocate for accountability and transparency, seeing this moment as a necessary reckoning in a religious landscape too often hesitant to confront misconduct. These conversations, while difficult, demonstrate a community wrestling honestly with its values and future. There is also a human cost to consider. For many individuals, the church is not just a building or a leader, but a source of identity and purpose. The upheaval challenges the faith of congregants, who must wrestle with feelings of betrayal, loss, and hope all at once. This emotional toll adds complexity to any straightforward narrative about the controversy, reminding us that faith communities are made of people, not just institutions. Ultimately, the organizational impact reveals a church at a crossroads. The choices made now about leadership, accountability, and transparency will shape Elevation's legacy for years to come. Whether they emerge stronger or fractured will depend on more than just public relations. It will depend on how deeply this moment is acknowledged and addressed. The pressure on Elevation Church's structure and membership naturally brings legal and ethical issues into sharper focus, where public accountability and institutional responsibility intersect. Legal and ethical considerations. As the controversy around Pastor Steven Furtick deepens, legal and ethical questions have moved to the forefront of public discourse. Although no criminal charges have been confirmed, civil investigations and internal church audits have reportedly been initiated or considered. These inquiries seek to determine whether any laws, financial regulations, or organizational policies were violated. Such scrutiny often signals a critical juncture where private church matters enter the realm of public accountability. Legally, religious organizations occupy a complicated space in the United States. They enjoy certain protections for religious freedom, but are still subject to tax laws, financial reporting requirements, and governance standards. When ethical boundaries appear blurred or crossed, it shakes the foundation of that relationship and demands honest reckoning. Public statements from Elevation Church have emphasized cooperation with any reviews and a commitment to truth. Meanwhile, ethical frameworks within evangelical circles have also entered the conversation, especially around repentance, restoration, and the removal of leaders. People in different traditions and communities handle these themes in different manners. So getting any kind of shared agreement on the right step gets tricky. So the whole controversy ends up pointing to larger arguments about justice and mercy in spiritual leadership. And that adds yet more texture, not less. Put together, this legal review plus ethical assessment suggests that what Pastor Furtick is facing doesn't stop at sermons and Sunday services. It reaches into the basic meaning of leading with integrity in a community that wants both spiritual faithfulness and practical accountability. How the process plays out will probably reshape what people expect from leaders in similar roles going forward, whether they want that or not. With legal and ethical questions shaping the crisis, the eventual outcomes are set to influence not only one ministry, but the wider evangelical landscape and its trust in leadership. The road ahead. The future for Pastor Steven Furtick now hangs in a delicate balance, shaped not only by internal decisions within Elevation Church, but also by the broader reaction of the evangelical community. As questions of accountability and trust echo loudly, leaders and followers alike must confront how this situation will redefine their faith journeys. Whether Furtick remains a central figure or eventually steps aside, the controversy has already sparked a transformation in expectations for religious leadership. Furtick's next moves will likely be closely watched, as the public waits to see if he offers a sincere response acknowledging the concerns raised. Redemption narratives are common in faith contexts, but they require transparency and tangible actions, which must go beyond mere statements. These lessons may encourage other ministries to adopt more rigorous checks and balances, thus fostering a healthier leadership culture. The media spotlight on this situation will likely persist, keeping pressure on Furtick and Elevation Church to address the issues substantively. Public opinion will be shaped by both emerging facts and how effectively narratives of accountability and restoration are communicated. Online platforms amplify voices on all sides, making it harder to contain fallout or control the message. This environment demands savvy responses and genuine openness. Some observers say that this controversy may end up opening new convos around mental health, leadership burdens, and those real human boundaries that pastors hit. It's already causing a lot of soul-searching, not only among critics, but also among allies who still want to back leaders without accidentally tolerating harmful behavior. Maybe a gentler yet steady way of accountability will develop, like making room for mercy while still holding to standards that matter. Either way, no matter what happens next, this chapter feels like a real pivot point for Pastor Furtick's legacy and also for Elevation Church's self-understanding. What once looked almost untouchable, like an invincible ministry, now has real obstacles that will require humility and bravery to push through. If the hard truths are faced head-on, it could lead to renewed direction and firmer community ties, but only if those lessons are actually taken in. In the end, the road ahead is uncertain, but it is not empty of hope. This story is a reminder that leadership, especially in spiritual settings, has to be joined with integrity and real responsibility. Moving forward will mean honest review, authentic reform, and a real commitment to rebuild trust, with openness and care baked in. Today we examine the unfolding crisis surrounding Pastor Steven Furtick, its origins, impact, and what the future might hold. This story highlights the complex intersection of faith, leadership, and accountability in modern ministry. If you found this breakdown insightful, please like the video and subscribe for more in-depth analysis on important cultural and spiritual stories. Your support helps us keep bringing you clear and thoughtful content.